Okay, so I'll give people a few moments to jump on there. I'll kick things off. Welcome. My name is Eddie Thompson, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about Sumo Logic Security Intelligence, and more specifically, our Cloud SIEM solution. Delivering the modern Cloud SIEM. I'm ably assisted today by my colleague Stefan, who's going to be manning the Q&A panel. A little bit of housekeeping to begin. First of all, the session will be recorded and will be available afterwards. We'll send out the link to you, so you don't need to worry about that. And if you do have any questions, please do use the Q&A functionality within Zoom. Ask your questions there, and Stefan will be there to go along with that, so I don't need to sort of stop what I'm doing in the demo. So please do feel free to reach out there. The Cloud SIEM is something new for us in a way. So Sumo's been doing security analytics and security work in the cloud now for quite some time, but we've recently really sort of stepped it up to another level with our Cloud SIEM solution. And some of you may have seen some marketing material about this, might have seen a session at Illuminate, a user conference, and it's something that's really quite different in the market, and I think hopefully you'll get something useful and something interesting out of the session today. So I'm not going to bore you to death with slides here. I've only got a couple, but some things I just want to level set a bit with. Some things that have fundamentally changed in the security world the last few years, and because of these things that have changed, security operations itself must change. And there's some real driving factors behind that. The first one is cloud adoption, digital transformation. It's no longer just DevOps shops and people who are right at the bleeding edge, who are sort of undergoing cloud migrations, cloud journeys. This is a core part of business for most organizations now. There's either cloud first strategies, cloud native, or they're undergoing cloud transformations at the moment. And one of the fundamental differences there is a lot of legacy security tooling, legacy SIEMs. They weren't built for the cloud. They don't scale for the cloud, and they're difficult to integrate with the cloud. They're from another time. They don't fit the model. The second thing is the threat landscape itself has changed with this move to the cloud. So the models that we previously dealt with, everyone knows that the perimeter security model is long gone. But this move to the cloud has fundamentally changed what the attack surface looks like throughout a landscape. You've not just got stuff that you're operating within your data center, applications that you're operating in the cloud. You've got SaaS applications and everything that you need to be able to tie together to try and sort of create a cohesive picture, a cohesive view of what's going on across your entire landscape. And that's something that's very difficult. It's something that a lot of people have been struggling with, and it's something that there's been difficulty with traditional tools to actually address this change as well. And the last one, and this is something which is specific to operations, is alert fatigue. So we've got so many more providers. The volume of data, the volume of alerts, the volume of notifications, it's no longer a human scale problem. So this isn't something that is easily addressed by throwing bodies at the problem. And it's something that is a real issue. And as you try to deal with this changing threat landscape, more point tools come into it, that's actually increasing your data volume as well. So there's a magnification effect by trying to deal with this broadening threat landscape. The additional tooling that comes with that is generating more signals, more alerts, and more fatigue as well. So that's that's some real things that we've noticed in the market and things that we recognise have to change. And so that's why we say you can modernize with a Z, because I didn't change that, your security operations with a cloud SIEM. So this is just a little bit of an example here. The funnel of fidelity. So this is some data based off a POC or a proof of value that was done with one of our customers, and what they actually saw in 45 days in a real world environment. So they had over 10 billion records. So there's events, log lines, and from those 10 billion events, the correlation rules, the notifications, were generated, the signals, as we call them, 9.8 million. So that's a ridiculous amount. And most SIEMs, most legacy SIEMs that use correlation rules, that is where they stop. And that's not a human scale problem to deal with. So what have we done with Sumo? We take this a step further. So this is where our insight engine is actually able to apply some intelligence, some machine learning, and do some additional cross-correlation across these sources, and in an intelligent model actually link these signals together to reduce the noise and sort of filter things down and distill it, so that we go from 9.8 million signals to 175 insights. Now, these insights are signals that themselves have been cross-correlated and are able then, this is sort of what's bubbled up to the user to be able to say, okay, these are the things that you actually need to look at. And we've taken something that is just impossible to address, that 9.8 million, and taken it down to something which is a human scale problem. So of those, no action was required for 95 of them. There were 15 false positives and 65 incidents, actual security incidents. So the signal to insight ratio is 55,000 odd to 1, with a false positive rate of 9%. So have a think about that sort of incident volume. I mean, this is for a pretty big customer, but you have a think about, with your current tooling, how long would that take for you to run through your processes with that? And I think most would say that it's not something that they would easily address with their current tool set. So Sumo is a bit different to your traditional security tooling in that we are not a point security tool. We are a data platform, a machine data analytics platform, and we offer a complete cloud SIEM solution. So as I was just saying, these automatically generated actionable insights are not just prioritized alerts. This isn't just an automated triage. This is applying some serious smarts and enrichment and network context to be able to give your operators something that they can directly work with. They know they need to look at these things, and it really sort of crystallizes what needs to be addressed first. And look, the fundamental thing that makes us different is our architecture. So our platform is unlike any other in the market. So we have a true petabyte scale cloud native data platform. So it's multi-tenant, it's elastic scalability. We have customers who have extremely seasonal data flows. So you think major sporting events, things like the Melbourne Cup, where you have one day where you might have 200x data flows, retailers with Black Friday, those sort of things. Being able to take that in our stride, not needing to do massive over provisioning, it's something that customers can focus on what their business is about, not worrying whether or not their tooling provider is going to fall over because they can't handle it. And once you sort of see it in action, once you sort of see that scaling capability, it really sort of the light twigs on. So I spent a lot of time early in my career working on-prem big data platforms, and the issue of scale, the issue of what we did with the data was always more of a problem for us than how we're actually addressing security problems, how we're actually addressing the problems of what we wanted to do with the data. It was about getting it here to there. And so for Sumo, we've solved that problem. That is that fundamental difference of the architecture. And as I mentioned, we're not just a security tooling. This is, for us, about, we say, democratizing machine data. So you have a central platform for SecOps, ITOps, DevSecOps together, meaning that you're onboarding this data commonly. So if you've got DevOps users, they can make use of the CloudTrail data to tell them what's going on in the infrastructure side of things, but you're also using that data to monitor the security side of things. So there's a commonality to that data. There's a commonality to the value that you're deriving from that platform. It's not just sort of, here's my budget, here's what I'm going to do with it. It's something that you're getting greater organizational value out of. And so that's another thing too. We don't just stop at that sort of, I've correlated an alert, here you go, you should look at that. So because we are a true machine data platform, we have the deep search capability. So when it comes to things like threat hunting, people can actually go off piste, so to say, and really dig into what's going on across however they wish to drill in and slice the data. But for the operators, for the security operators, we have a specifically tuned interface for their day-to-day workflow, which is quite different to most other things you would have seen in the market. And I suppose the other thing too, and this is stuff that we've put a lot of development effort into, and I'm really pleased to see in the platform, is our cloud native collection is leaps and bounds above what you see elsewhere. So when it comes to getting data on board from AWS, from GCP, from Azure, and from the other SaaS platforms and threat providers, being able to hook into these things via APIs directly, not having to run a bunch of other VMs to sort of hook these things in. It's just, it's night and day, and just the level of usability, I think is really great. And that ties into the last point here, which is rapid time to value. So we're not talking about months and months of professional services engagements to finally get things stood up and maybe get some data in and hopefully get some alerts popping up. We're talking about days and weeks here to actually having a functional operational environment. And that's something which still surprises me to see in action, how quickly that we have customers deriving value from what has been placed in front of them in such a short period of time. So anyway, I said I didn't have too many slides, so I will progress through. We'll do it live. That's the wrong direction, Edward. Here we go. So this is the Sumo Cloud SIEM Enterprise. Let's pull that full screen. And this is what we call the HUD. So we can see that I am online and I've got the date today. And at the moment, I'm looking across a time range of the last 3 days. Now, I could look at something like the last 4 hours, I could go to the last week, but at the moment, the last 3 days, and I'm showing here around 8 million records, that is the log lines, 223,000 signals, and from that I have 16 insights. And how this sort of ties into this heads-up display I have in the corner, the outer blue ring here I have is the volume of records. So if I see a dip there or a spike, that may indicate something of a change that's going on. You see there that I didn't refresh that. That's just doing that automatically for me. So it is something live. This is something that you can have displayed on a screen in the NOC. But from this volume of records, the next ring in we have, these are the signals. So this is what would have been in a traditional model an alert, a correlation alert, something which has said, okay, this is pinged a rule. I want you to have a look at this. Now, we take this a step further, and beyond that, in this inner ring, these are the insights. So the green ones here that I'm mousing over, these have been closed. So these have been addressed. The red ones, these are new. And we can see here that as I go around following the clock, it's the time range. So this is going across the 3-day period. If it was 4 hours, I'd be bisecting that 4-hour period as well. The white one here, this is an other insight. That's because I have actually, this one's been classified. I'll touch on that in a moment, but out of the box, you would have normally either red or green, saying these are the things that need to be dealt with, or these are the ones that I have been dealt with. So I see here insight activity. This is the most recent one that has popped, so it's giving me some information here. And also a bit of a timeline of the last things that have happened on the platform. So someone's updated an insight, someone's changed a status on this one. Now, if I wanted to drill into those a bit more and see what's actually going on, I can click onto insights. And so this is loaded up in a tabular view, but sort of a common way to sort of look at this in a SOC type environment is in this board view. So like a Kanban board, an agile board, whatever you wish to call it. But normally working with some other analysts, this allows me to see what the status is. So I've got what's coming in my new column. And if I'm working on something, I might put it in progress. I may have escalated it to Spec Ops. So Spec Ops is actually a Sumo team that we have. These are actually some really high quality sort of security engineers that you can sort of engage with as part of your sort of security program and posture. They act as a bit of a force multiplier. So these guys can sort of assist you with your threat hunting and sort of work with you on your sort of engagements. They're not an MDR provider. It's a bit different from that. So it's more about some high level expertise that you can engage as sort of a part of your overall strategy. So tier 3, excuse me, that's that was the white insight that I have. So this is just an additional categorization that has been created. That's just to show you that can be done. So you can add in categories as makes sense for your environment, for your processes. And closed here, it says 0, but I've actually got a filter up here saying that the status is not closed. And so I'm able to filter my insights here as well. So if I want to look at something just by a particular assignee or by a particular severity resolution, etc., I can absolutely do that as well. So if I go back to my insights, if I prefer, I can look at them in that sort of tabular list view. So some people prefer this way, particularly if they're just sort of in a smaller team. They know what the other one's sort of doing. I'm on shift at the moment, and I just want to see what is sort of coming down the pipe. And it lets me know the particular insights which are happening. And you can see also under these insights that we're also mapping the particular MITRE attack framework stages that are involved. So you can see that as well. And in this little sort of HUD map on the side, we can see the time range and also the associated severity of the events and the event type. So I can see here that I've got some different rule types that have been triggered here. So, excuse me. So I click into an insight. This is where we can see what is going on, and this is where the sort of the secret sauce comes into things. So because we're constantly in the insight engine looking back over the previous time range, we're constantly looking for things which will match up against a common entity. Now, an entity may be a user, an IP address, or a host, but when we start seeing things which are common to a particular entity over a period of time, that we may say, okay, we have now several low priority events that by themselves probably would not warrant specific investigation, but because they've happened over the last 3 days and there's some anomalous network activity involved with them as well, this is something that actually needs you to look at. So I can see here over time, I can run through the timeline and say we've got an Office 365 alert saying a malicious URL click was detected. And then there was a threat intelligence match from that as well. And then we sort of had a bit of time go past, and now we're seeing attempted user login from 2 countries in 1 hour. And then we're seeing a user successfully logged in from 2 countries in 1 hour. And that has generated an impossible travel activity alert. But these things have all sort of been strung together to show us something that may not have been picked up based on some low priority alerts. And these are rules which are coming to you out of the box. This is stuff which is coming in from known data types that is pre-parsed. And if I want to click on a particular insight here, I can look into the details and I can see for the specific rule what the expression was. I can see when it happened. I can see that it has not been suppressed, and I can see any sort of artifacts related to it. In this case, it's an email address and a username. Now, if there was any enrichments that had happened, I could investigate those there as well. Now we get sort of like the core information of what's been investigated here, what's been parsed here, and it's sort of displayed out in a fairly easy to read, easy to view manner. But if I wanted to look in the full details and actually sort of drill into something, if I'm more comfortable looking at a more sort of raw log type format, I can absolutely do that as well. And I'm able to show that as the raw log format, or I'm able to download those if I wish to whack it into another system. I can do that as well. But you can see here that because I've got this particular entity, this is other enrichment information as well. So it's being polling some enrichment data from my Active Directory server, so I can see at a glance some useful information, things like the department and any other sort of information that I wish to pull from there. But I don't need to go off and look at another system for this. This is all stuff that's in there at the moment. And if I wish to sort of add in a tag for this particular incident, say Office 365 compromise, I could do that. If I went to assign this action to myself, I could do that. So I've got status. I can change the status of where that'd be in my Kanban board. Assignee, I could assign that to someone else in my team, or I could assign it to myself. And actions. So this is a really handy thing. So say I want to pop this over to ServiceNow. I use ServiceNow as my ticketing system. I'm going to create an incident for this because I've decided this is a real thing. It's not a false positive, and I'm going to create my ticket. I can do that. If I've got something where I need to go to a SOAR tool, so I can go to Demisto, or if I want to look it up on Recorded Future, I can do that as well. So these are all dynamic workflows that can be easily built in and stops that sort of need for the copy-paste swivel chair actions, just passes things through really, really nicely. And this is just being able to do this in a straightforward, dynamic manner is just a really, really nice thing for anyone who's worked in sort of a security operations role before. It's particularly pleasant and intuitive, and the information, you feel like it's just there. So when I first sort of saw this, I was very impressed by how quickly I could find the relevant information. Everything just sort of seemed to appear for me. I wasn't sort of going to pivot off to other things to look for things. But it's one of those things that you can absolutely work on what is broadly available and is populating yourself. But you can also go through and add in other things that you're already working on. So this is the other thing too. If you're an existing Sumo user and you've got a bunch of useful correlation rules, this isn't some secondary platform. This is built with Sumo. So any stuff that you've got, current rule sets and things like that, they can be automatically set to trigger as an insight itself. So if you've got something that is already a really great rule, you can either recreate it within the CSE context, or you can actually have that just fire directly from the Sumo SIP platform and populate in here as well. So it's not a case of rip and replace. If you are a Sumo security user currently, this is an enhancement of your capability. And so the other thing here is, so your rule set, I think there's over 400 rules out of the box. And because this is a CI/CD SaaS platform, you are constantly getting updates to parsers, updates to rules, new techniques being added. So this isn't something where you need to wait around for the quarterly patch, or you need to wait or try and do something yourself. We have people who are working on the rule set, working on the parsers. New stuff comes out, you're getting this live. This is stuff that is just hugely powerful, just not having to worry about that patch cycle. And that's a really important thing. So being able to sort of see as these rules have been updated, being able to integrate other threat intelligence feeds that you may already have, match lists, so lookups that you can look against network blocks, and being able to add these into really quite complex business logic. So the other thing too, I'll just sort of within a particular rule here. This is a big one here. This prototype rule button. Some people gloss over this, but this is amazing. Anyone who's ever worked in an operational environment where you've tried out a new rule, and then you've possibly gone to lunch or worse, gone to the pub on Friday and come back to see that you've accidentally DDoSed yourself with thousands of incidents from your new rule, will absolutely love this button, because it means that you can test out your new rule and it's not actually going to fire real incidents. And that is the sort of thing which can avoid the need for having a separate development environment just to be able to test out some rule sets. And I just think that's fantastic. So you can see here what the rule editor looks like, what I'm able to be matching on when it has matched, but if it's triggered, and then create a signal on a particular entity, and you're able to sort of use metadata within the rules themselves, within the descriptions themselves, so you actually get context in the rule names you're looking at. You don't just end up with a rule with a generic name. You're actually able to embed some variables and stuff into these and have some context when you actually look at something, which is, it sounds simple, but there's a lot of things that make that really hard to do. And I've particularly found things like the dynamic severity and being able to have the metadata within the descriptions, within the names, is just a really, really nice operational experience. And here, just things like what's been happening with this particular rule. So who's changed it last? So really just basic stuff, but really nice stuff as well. So look, that's probably the core of what I wanted to show you today. So it's maybe a first introduction to this for a lot of you. Bit of a lightning round. But yeah, I'm really excited by this product. I've been really enjoying playing around with it and seeing what we can do. And it's yeah, a massive uplift in our sort of analyst level capability for security tooling. But yeah, I hope this has been of use to you, and I hope that you've sort of learned something today. And yeah, please feel free to reach out. The recording of this will be available. Feel free to pass it along to others in your org if you think it might be of interest to you. A quick one there. So no, you will not need to pay for the ingest of the data twice. Have a chat to your account rep about how the Sumo credit model works. There is an incremental level charge for the CSC capacity, but it's definitely not a it's definitely not a double charge. But yeah, if you're interested, yeah, feel free to reach out to you and your existing customer. Reach out to your account exec or your customer success team, and they'd be happy to run you through that as well. So that's not that interesting, but anyway, one platform, multiple security use cases. We've got a whole bunch of customers who are using this live now to secure their applications, secure their organizations, and these same people are using it for SecOps, IT Ops, DevOps. We really think that it's something that you can get some value from, real value in your organization, and in a short amount of time as well. So thank you very much for your time. I've been Eddie Thompson, and thank you for sitting here with me. Cheers.